took a look around the railway instead of solar, this story might tell you about scrap metal and engines from the smelter's yard. The smelter's yard is not a safe place to live. It was here to melt down and to scrap into pieces. Old engines lined up in the sidings as the cutter's torch hitting the down. Workmen are scrapping them, and because they were too old and the managers saved up his money for anything but old steam engines. But there was one thing that engines in the scrap wasn't here for scrap. It was here to help out, but it was a tender engine. We used to work a long time ago. This engine was a Caledonian, like Donald and Douglas. Well, not the same, but this one was different. It was painted, and its size tank was black and yellow stripes, painted in both letters and numbers, 56 and the LWR on its tender. This engine's name was Reginald, who's the shunter and mixed traffic tender engine. He used to shunt piles of scrap train into the sidings and sent into a large shed. But even so, he even gets to take the scrap goods days and night, and he loved his job so much. But from the mainland diesel, they didn't really like this. They thought he'd make them look stupid. They were jealous. They wrapped the call and needs to be rude to him. He always carried on with his work until one day the manager came up and spoke to Reginald.
There's a load of scrap metal in pieces that need taking to barrow and furnace. The other engines are busy, so I think you should do it.
The yard manager said.
Why, yes, of course. I would like to.
Then the job is yours, Reginald. The 2 diesel shunters will handle the work here while you're away.
With that, the manager turned and walked away. Reginald wasn't sure if the other engines might handle the work. Just then, 2 diesels came up rolling. I looked at Reginald.
Well. Who we have here, Max?
The diesel smirked.
If it isn't that steam kettle engine.
I hope you two don't cause trouble around this place. Besides, you won't be last one here.
Reginald grunted.
Are you threatening us, Caledonian? Don't you dare call me that.
Interrupted Reginald.
I have a name and a proper engine, unlike you two.
Don't talk to us like that. We're the revolution and the future to the railway. So show us some respect, unless the yard manager will sell you off for sure.
Reginald hissed as he puffed away to his docks, leaving the 2 diesels at their thoughts. He soon arrived at the docks and coupled up to the train. The signal rose was red because some of the night trains was going on. As he waited in the sidings, ready to go, he thought of something about the 2 diesels, and that said to him this afternoon.
Brandon, what does the 2 diesels mean that the yard manager is gonna sell me off?
He questioned his driver.
I don't know, oh boy. They're just probably kidding around. I'm sure they didn't mean it though. Jerking around, you say, huh, Brandon? Your fire's so warm, I don't want to leave it. Anyways, what time is it, Brandon? It says we're supposed to arrive by an hour ago, but the night train is still running.
That's just great. If we don't get going, the 2 diesels can take my favorite place in the sheds.
We'll have to wait in the sidings until the track is cleared.
His driver said as Reginald waited in the sidings ready to leave. But it wasn't long before the signal had turned green.
Finally, I've been waiting for at least 5 minutes.
His relief was short-lived as he puffed away into the railway. He arrived at Barrow and Furnace. The yard wasn't exactly like the ones in the other railway. It was all rusty, grey and dingy. Some of the old engines were scrapped in the sidings on the ground. They were all rusted empty. Smoke box and some pieces of the old engine anywhere. Then Reginald saw a building nearby. There was a smelter, and it wasn't a big shed where the big mainline diesel slept. Reginald wasn't sure that if he will have to do, but more importantly, excuses. He didn't hear that there was no sound of diesels, no shunting trucks, or even a single engine. He soon uncoupled his train and left the yard. Left his railway. Reginald was still thinking about the barrel and furnace. When he came back to his smelting shed, he was wondering why the shed was so small and no diesel engines. As he shunted a pile of scrap train into the siding, and the two diesels were playing around instead of doing their work. They've been biffing and bashing in the trucks by one.
Alright, Max, here comes your 4 trucks. Keep playing like that. You're gonna get yourself into serious danger, you two.
He said. The diesels didn't. They continued to play more when suddenly Adam biffed the truck so hard that Max had bumped into the buffers. The buffers were bashed and broken. There was a long silence until the yard manager walked up.
What in the devil is going on here?
He shouted.
Adam and Max, you were supposed to shunt the trucks into sidings and load them up with some scrap metal. But no, this shed was a complete mess. I sent you two here to work, not for playing around. I might as well scrap you myself. Now you two get back to work unless you're planning to smart things up.
The yard manager turned slowly around on his heels and walked away. It wasn't long before Reginald found his voice.
See, I told you not to play around, but you wouldn't listen.
Shut up, old Caledonian.
Screamed Max.
You never told us or even tell us that. This is all your fault, Reggie.
Reginald said nothing as he walked away to the shed to rest, while the two pieces stumbled away across it to do some shunting. Weeks had passed, and there was no hurt from Reginald and the two diesel engines. Until then, Adam and Max are shunting a pile of trucks with scrap pieces. They had stopped playing for a while, continuing their work. Reginald was at the docks bringing more scrap trains and scrap engines. He enjoyed traveling around the places, or something he had never seen. It was a good thing he had never heard those two diesels anymore.
Ah, finally. I don't hear on these two idiots. Speaking of the two of them, I wonder what they are up to now. Hopefully they're not gonna play any foolish.
But Reginald was wrong. That night, Reginald arrived back home carrying the train of tow inside the smelters. Inside, chains, cling, and shadows began dancing through the walls. As they uncoupled of the train, the points had changed into a siding. He was about to leave inside the smelters when suddenly he heard a bump from behind him and began rolling towards the end of the hot boiling. His driver applied the brakes just as his first pair of wheels left the rails.
Help! Someone help me!
No one heard him. Just as the driver and fireman could get out of the cab for help quickly, as fast as they could. Then Reginald looked down into the hot boiling against the below of them. Then Reginald looked down into the hot boiling against the below. Then he began to hear a groan came under his cab. He was about to tip over when a horn brought to his attention. Up, he saw two diesels. It was Adam and Max, who'd been behind all this time. Reginald was surprised.
What? You two had been behind all of this? What's the reason for it?
He questioned them.
Well, since you're no longer to work at the smelter's yard, We decided that the manager is gonna scrap you for good.
And when your tender goes off, you'll fall over to the hot boiling from the below.
Diesels laughed as they slung away. They coupled up to the trucks attached to the tender and left Reginald by himself alone. He didn't know what else to do, or what could he do. He began to fall, tipping over by his own.
No, don't leave me here. You two just help me. Anyone, help me.
He screamed. Suddenly, Reginald shrieked as he plunged into the beam below as a few workers found out as he was going inside. Soon, the driver and fireman quickly found what happened inside. But it was too late. Reginald was completely gone. The two diesels laughed. It was a devilish laugh. When the yard manager walked up to them,
What the same devil is going on there?
he cursed at the two diesels.
I was in my office and I left home from work until I started to hear screaming cut through the area. Does that have something to do with you two?
Adam and Max wasn't sure what happened, but then again, they make up a lie and told what happened. Once they finished, the manager believed them.
Well, I can't say. You two go back to your shed. I gotta deal with this situation going on,
he said as the two slunk away. No wanted to get into trouble for it. Then the yard manager looked down at the hot boiler below him and gave a heavy sigh.
I'm so sorry, Reginald, but I can't waste my money to repair you. I have to save up my allowance for something. I'm so sorry. You may rest in peace.
With that, he turned and walked away. That evening, Adam and Max had finished shunting the trucks into the siding. They returned to the shed. They said goodnight to the drivers. They've been thinking about the Caledonian engine that might have been killed or scrapped, but they didn't care. Soon they closed it off and drifted to sleep. Suddenly, there was a hiss sound around the area. The noise woke Max up.
Hello? Is someone there?
There was no reply.
Who's there? If you're playing on us, that is not funny.
Max, will you go back to sleep? We got work in the morning.
Snore, Adam. Then he heard a puffing sound again, and this time Max wasn't kidding. He was scared. He looked around, but no one now. He was very scared. Then suddenly, Max felt something in his cab. His regulator was turned on, and before long, Max began moving on his own, with no driver.
Help! Someone help me, I'm moving!
Max screamed, and the sound woke Adam.
Max, will you cut that scream? It make me
He stopped. He saw Max rolling out of the shed, with no one in his cab.
Max, where are you going? Why is your driver in your cab?
Max said nothing and screamed for help, but no one would help him. Then suddenly, Adam saw something in the tracks in front of him. There was a shadowy, ghostly Caledonian. It was painted purple, and the side tanks were yellow and black stripes. It was rusty and didn't have no tender on it. Then the engine began puffing towards Adam.
Stay back. I'm warning you. Please, wake up. Wake up. Please wake up. Please wake up. I must dreaming.
Adam wasn't dreaming. There in front of the ghostly Caledonian, he didn't know what else to do. He had no driver. But trying to save Max, then the engine finally spoke.
So you two could help me when I was in danger?
No.
There was a long silence in the yard, and the fog had lifted. The workmen could only find the mangled dead bodies with no killers. One was in the shed, and its eyes popped from its socket. any other one, and the other one tragically killed from the accident last night. No one knows what happened to those two diesels, Adam and Max. One night the drivers left for their home, and then next, one of the drivers found their diesel dead, and the other one missing. The odd manager can't waste his money on two diesels to repair them, decided to scrap them instead. The two diesels were loaded up onto flatbeds, waiting for the workmen to get started. For a long time, there was nothing from anyone or an engine for all the diesels and steam engines could hear a whistle echoing around the smelters. And the other night, they heard screaming, and then an accident with no engine around.
If you wonder why I was told by the story from my father when he had his old job, well, this story might change your lives. Thomas liked his job so much. He ran on the branch line with Annie and Clarabelle, his two branch line coaches. But he also wanted to access the driver about who runs this branch line and what did he came to Sodor. But his driver didn't want to answer that. But he was just curious about what was the branch line like. Later, Thomas puffed into his shed after his last train for the day. He was very tired. Percy and Toby were already asleep. He said goodnight to his crew and left. It wasn't long before Thomas drifted off to sleep. A while later, Thomas woke up. He looked around and could hear a puffing sound through the area, and the fog was so thick too. He couldn't help that something was off. Then some shunting trucks could be heard. Hello? He said. Is someone there? No one replied. He appeared into the mist and saw an orange tank engine. It had 4 wheels, but 2 bogies. It looked like it hadn't been there for a decade. Then the orange engine began to puff away, and all Thomas could do was watch as the orange engine puffed away into the fog. And then suddenly, there was silence, and no whistling, just silent. Thomas couldn't help about what he just heard, but he didn't know what to do. Whoever was out there could be still here. Soon, he closed his eyes and drifted into slumber. The next morning, Thomas couldn't think about what he heard last night. He tried to ignore it, but it was still onto his mind. He soon arrived at Ellsbridge Station where Edward is. He noticed a little tank engine was not normal himself.
Are you alright, Thomas?
Edward asked as he came up.
You are usually quiet this morning. Is something wrong?
No, Edward. I saw something last night, Thomas said nervously.
Oh, what did you see then? It could be an animal or something.
Then, Thomas took 3 deep breaths and told his tales to him. When he finished, Edward sighed and looked down at his buffers.
Poor Kyle.
Edward said silently.
I wish he couldn't have been so friendly, but now he acted his fate.
You know about this engine, Edward? Thomas asked to him.
Well, Thomas, since you asking, I guess I could tell you about the engine of what he'd been for.
Edward said before the guard's whistle called out.
Oh, sounds like I gotta go. I will talk about it in the sheds, Thomas.
He said as he puffed away. Thomas was just wondering why Edward didn't speak much, and who was the orange engine. He didn't say anything as he puffed to Farquhar Station. Soon he arrived at the sheds where the other engines. Edward waited for Thomas to tell him once he was back down into his berth. He could see he looked worried that Edward will tell the story to the other engines in front of him. "Well, Edward," said Thomas quietly, "it's about time you tell who's that engine and what he's here for." Edward let out a wheeze of steam and told his tale. Before Edward came to this railway, long time since he came to Sodor, he met some of the few engines he had met. The engines that he knew, few of them, were 87546 and 98462, Jeffrey, and even an orange engine named Bradford, the 1909 engine. But people called him the 1909 engine because he was here to help out the other railways. Bradford liked his job so much. It was his dream that he ever done it before he'd do some shunting, taking goods, and even pull passenger trains. He was the controller's favorite engine. He was even Edward's back engine. Ever since he and Edward enjoyed chatting to each other, until one day, the manager asked one of the engines to pick up the girders, but Bradford volunteered to take it, and the manager accepted it. Soon he arrived at the smelters picking up the girders. The yard was so spooky, but Bradford didn't mind visiting here. The next day, the controller came to the shed for some news.
My good friend Bertram Topham Hatt has told me that you will be going to a different railway tomorrow morning. Edward and Bradford, you will be collecting the last girders from the smelters. I am trusting you on this job.
With that, the controller turned and walked away. Bradford, however, puffed away to the sheds as Edward watched him leave.
And that was the last time I saw him. I came to the railway and there was nothing has been ever since.
What happened then? Thomas asked.
Well, few months later, the controller to Bradford, he said that he performed an engine that was going to scrap him instead. He said he doesn't have enough money to repair or send him. He changed his mind to save up his allowance and for an engine to arrive. Bradford was not pleased about this. He worked all of his life might be old, but he didn't feel like a very useful engine. So he begged for the controller to not scrap him.
I'm sorry, Bradford, but times have changed. Besides, I can't afford you to the railway because you're too expensive and I unfortunately cannot repair you. So therefore you'll be sent for scrap. The diesel is on his way to come pick you up at the sheds, and the new engine will be arriving soon.
The controller walked away while Bradford glared at him. He didn't want it to be scrapped. He'd rather go to the other railway on his own. Then he had an idea. He decided to escape. That was a good idea for a run. His driver filled up his coal. He rushed away in a rush. He found the puff he had never knew he had. He was soon closest to the station. Then disaster. The mainland diesel rolling along with the express train. But Bradford didn't notice that he's on the same line as him.
Whoa! Slow down, steamer!
Huh? Why, the old sparks!
Groaned Bradford. His driver applied the brakes, but it was too late.
That was the last thing he ever done. But they say that in October, many engines and foremen heard the screeching brakes and a huge scratch echoing around the bend. So I can only mean one thing.
Wait, so you're saying he is real? He's still out there when I saw him last night?
Well, Thomas, Now that I told you the whole story, he sealed his fate.
Edward finished while Thomas gasped. The engine he saw last night was him, but it was impossible that Edward's story was true. A few days later, Thomas and Edward didn't say nothing until then, but on certain night, they can also hear of Bradford the runaway engine, screeching brakes, and a huge crash, but he was still here.
Since the beginning of the year, I was told by the engine from Arcel Railway. But this story might fear you when I tell you this. The railway was a small island long ago. Bert was the only one here, same as the rest of the engines. One evening, Bert was resting in the shed when a whistle came up. A new engine arrived. It was so new that Bert had never seen it before.
Hello, I'm Bert, and what's your name?
I can introduce myself, thank you very much. I'm Olivia from the Great Western Railway.
She bellowed.
I beg your pardon. Where are your manners, ma'am?
Don't call me ma'am. Does it look like I'm a ma'am to you? Watch yourself, kid, because I'm the greatest engine from the other railway.
Livia bellowed angrily before the two engines could say any more insults. Bert puffed away. Livia just smirked. Bert was working at Archdale West. He was still worried about Livia's actions. Hopefully, she hadn't gone mad as she was shunting the last ballast wind.
Out of my way, chicken heads. The most important engine coming through.
She whistled. Bert and Rex were cross. That night, the engines talked about Livia's behavior. She said I was taking a lot of time.
She says that I need to replace my whistle.
She literally called me and Rex chicken heads.
She also called me a tram engine.
Livia is seriously taken to a whole new level.
The engines quite agreed. The next day, Bert's jar was filling up on water for his next jobs when Livia came to the sheds.
It's not fair.
She growled.
What's not fair?
Bert asked.
Because I had to do the Balawas job for the whole day, and someone else might take the passenger to the next station, but no! Mr. Fergus Duncan won't let me change jobs.
Probably because you're not careful with the coaches, and you were speeding too fast.
Oh, don't you start with me.
She hissed as she popped away to collect the trucks at the quarry. Just then, Mr. Fergus Duncan came walking up.
We have some passengers needed to be taken to Arlesdale Station. All of the engines are so busy, so I prefer you to take the train.
He said, finished.
Oh, yes, sir. I will take it, sir.
Excited Bert.
Well, that settles it, Bert. You will be the first engine to pull coaches. Just make sure not to get so aggressive. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
He said.
That's a good engine. The passengers are counting on you for this.
Livia was upset. She soon arrived at the station and was coupled up to the train. All the passengers were on board and the guard blew his whistle. Bert popped out of the station, pulling the coach gently. As he went by, Bert was enjoying himself proudly. He traveled up and down the tracks and the passengers enjoyed the ride. He popped past Livia at the junction.
Oh my. Poor Livia can't pull passenger trains because she's stuck pulling trucks.
Teased Bert. The passengers giggled to themselves while Livia glared. Soon Bert arrived at the station. The passengers were still disembarking. He soon popped away to the station. Bert was still having a wonderful time when Livia blew her whistle firmly.
Get a move on, chickenhead. I'm going to be late to deliver the blows to the Arstill West.
I can't go fast. I got to take it slowly. And I want to point out that I left the station 5 minutes late. And whose fault is that? Oh, that's right. It was that clumsy engine who's not doing the work properly.
The passengers laughed at Livia. While she glared, they soon arrived at Arsdale West. Then Livia made a big mistake.
Get moving right now!
She bumped the coach straight into the road. The passengers screamed and frightened. Everyone was very cross at Livia.
You stupid coward idiot!
Screamed Bert.
Do you realize what you just did?
The passengers got out of the coaches and started cursing at Livia for her trouble.
You're sick, twisted murder!
Said one of the passengers.
I'd rather use my umbrella to scratch off your paint off.
Said another.
I hope you're happy, Livia. Just wait till Mr. Duncan hears about this.
Livia said nothing. Mr. Fergus was waiting at the platform when Bert arrived along with Livia. The passengers told Mr. Fergus what a bad railway it was, and how Livia was a bad engine.
Leave it to me, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Fergus said calmly.
Livia and I are gonna have a long chat.
Livia gulped.
Several people, Livia, several people got hurt because of your actions.
But sir, I was only thinking...
The only thing you were thinking about was yourself, and not our safety record on our railway. Is everyone else, but not only that, you've got the passengers seriously injured. Do you not realize how dangerous that is?
No, sir, because you're not letting me change jobs, and I was supposed to pull the passengers. But instead, I pulled dirty trucks around the railway. So without being said, sir, will you please let me change jobs until I can be trusted?
Said Livia.
You wanted to change your jobs? Alright, I think of that.
Mr. Fergus turned and walked away. Livia was worried, what if she was never going to be sent away back to her railway? Then Mr. Fergus came back shortly.
Well, Livia, I've decided to...
To give a second try, sir? Thank you, sir. I'll be extra careful with the passengers, sir.
Actually, Livia, I have decided that I got a call from the controller saying that you'll be sent back to your own railway and you will never return here.
Livia was horrified when she heard that.
What? But sir, please. I can change with the passengers. Trust me for once.
No, Livia, no. You don't deserve a second chance. And the passengers don't trust you anymore. My mind is already made up. An engine will come to pick you up at the Arlesdale West, and you'll think of your actions when you're gone. Good day.
Mr. Fergus turned and walked away, leaving Livia here alone. Now she was enraged. She wanted to get a second chance, but she screwed it up. Now she was going to be sent back to her railway once again. 2 days later, Livia was on a flatbed ready to leave. An engine came to pick her up. Mr. Fergus walked up and said goodbye to Livia. So was the other engines, not wanting to see her again because of her behavior. Soon the engines were ready and passed away, dragging Livia on the flatbed. Halfway there, Livia started to complain more and more, but an engine was getting annoyed by that. They soon came up to a high hill.
This is hopeless. I suggest that you take me back to Arlesdale West right now.
Livia said bossy to the engine.
Do you not hear me? I said take me back right now.
She started bumping to the engine again. That was the final straw.
Hey, don't do that!
He shouted. The engine was so cross that he bumped Livia back. The disaster. The coupling broke and Livia raced down the hill. She shrieked.
Oh no!
Growled the engine. Livia was out of control. She kept pleading for help. But of course someone was around to help her. Then Livia soon came to the wooden bridge. When suddenly... The engine came fast as soon as possible. The driver and fireman rushed to the bridge for the runaway engine. Then they came back with horrible news.
We have to check the flatbed, but there's something we might have to show you.
The driver said, pointing at the bridge. The engine came closer to the bridge and gasped. There was Livia, in pieces.
Oh my lord.
The engine crew and the breakdown train soon arrived, but none of the cranes were long enough to have to pull the flatbed back up onto the tracks. But even though they could try to do so, it'd be far too late. When they arrived, Livia was lost forever. Bert, Rex, Mike, Jock, and Frank were sad to hear about the awful news, but on the other hand, they were annoyed by that as well.
Well, I did warn her about being safe, but she wouldn't listen.
So now what? Should we just hear her scream?
Forget about it, guys. She just sealed her fate.
Plus, Livia had proven to everyone that she is a troublesome sort of a bad engine. The engines said to themselves. On each days and night, the RSL engines were working when they could hear Livia's whistling and her blood-crawling scream. Bert felt doubt a moment later.
You're still here, huh? Listen, it was just an accident, but if you were a better engine, Livia, none of this would have happened.
Bert said quietly. So next time you come to the mountains of the Archdale Railway, you'll listen closely to the runaway engine of Olivia, the bad engine.
If you don't know this one, plus, do you believe in magic? Then let me tell you this story I was told by my mother. Toby, the tram engine, is one of the Fat Controller's railway engines. He likes taking the children to every seaside, and he loves working at the quarry with Mavis. That evening, the Fat Controller arrived with news.
Mavis has broken down from the quarry. She went to the diesel works to be repaired, and I want you to do Mavis's work while she is away.
The Fat Controller finished.
Yes, sir. But will I be back on time? Should I take Henrietta with me?
He asked.
Don't worry, Toby. Thomas will handle the branch line for you while and when you're gone. He will take her for you. Plus, you should be heading to the quarry by now. You don't want to be late.
With that, he returned to his car and drove away. Toby, however, felt worried. He had never worked alone at the quarry. He usually worked with several other engines, but not today. He puffed away and off to the quarry. He knew that the quarry wasn't that hard. Toby was working very hard. Even the quarry manager was impressed. When the work was done, he was able to get some rest for the night. But he also knew that something wasn't too easy. The fog came. He saw some shiny windows and saw an engine from the windows at the lights.
Looks like someone was expecting us.
But he was wrong. Soon he fell asleep, long enough that he had.
Why, hello there.
Toby woke up. There, beside him, was an old engine. It looked like it was staring right at him. Then, the engine started to speak again.
It's nice to share the shed with you. Plus, it's not good to sleep alone, you know.
Censored the old engine. Then, Toby found his voice.
I had no idea, but... Not my words, but... How did you get here?
The old engine didn't speak, while it let out a whoosh of steam. Then, the engine spoke again.
Oh, not to worry, my fella. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to chat with you,
said the old engine.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know anyone was here, but... What's your name anyway?
I don't have a name, but I do have a number for my style tank. 1090.
Oh, okay. 1090, I'm Toby.
Toby, huh? What an interesting name for a teapot.
Said the old engine.
I'm not a teapot, I'm a tram. A tram engine.
A tram engine? I used to have a tram engine on my island.
Now Toby was the confused one.
What do you mean?
He questioned at the old engine.
He was one of my old friends, but he was sent to the other railway, and I've never heard from him ever since.
The old engine said sadly.
Why don't you return?
Asked Toby if was curious. The old engine looked down on his buffers, but didn't spoke much. Then, the old engine looked at Toby and smiled.
Tell me something, though. Is Mavis around?
Oh, yes. She used to work at the quarry, although, however, she was sent to be repaired. But I'm the one who's now handling the quarry.
Quarry? I used to work here.
The old engine said. Toby was shocked. The old engine said that he used to work at the... Then, the old engine let out a wheeze of steam, and this time, he started to notice something about Toby.
Say, you look quite a bit similar from my friend back my old railway.
Oh? Do we? Well, I never met your friend or never saw him, but I'm sure you're welcome to Sodor. Sir Tom will be pleased to have you there.
Oh, but I won't be there, I'm afraid.
The old engine censored Toby.
And why can't you?
Asked Toby.
It's getting late now.
Yawned the old engine.
We should get some sleep. We'll save our chat in the morning.
Said the old engine before it went off to sleep. Toby was wondering why the engine wouldn't answer his question. It wasn't long before he went off to sleep. Toby woke with a start. It was daylight now, and the fog slowly lifted. He breathed a sigh of relief when his dream was over.
And I hope I didn't frighten you.
Addressing the old engine.
I had an terror.
He stopped, and the old engine wasn't there. At that moment, his crew had returned.
Hey, fellas, had a rough night?
His driver asked. Toby said nothing. When his fireman entered his cab, he spotted something on the tracks.
It looks like a number plate.
His fireman invented.
1090. Can we take it with us?
Toby asked. The fireman picked up the number plate, putting it into his cab. Toby set off for home. He was wondering about the old engine, or what it said last night. He knew, though, that he'll be having a long chat with Mavis.
Do you know much about miners and how they work in the mines? Well, maybe this story will change your mind when I tell it. Lincoln, the quarry engine, is one of the smallest engines from the Great Western Railway. He loves shunting trucks and loading them with stone from the hopper. It was a good job for Lincoln. One day, Lincoln was at the sheds when the foreman came up.
There's a load of stone that needs to be taken from the harbor,
said the foreman.
Yes, sir.
Lincoln insisted as the foreman walked away. Lincoln left the quarry to pick up the trucks from the quay. Soon, he arrived at the quay and was prepared to leave the quay. The stones were loaded into the trucks, the guard blew his whistle, and Lincoln left the quay, dragging the trucks gently behind him. Lincoln came to the bottom of a steep hill. The stones were heavy and he felt very tired. He huffed and he puffed and was soon at the top.
I made it from the top of the hill with a puff,
He said out of breath. Then there was trouble. The trucks were too heavy and they pushed him down the other side of the hill.
Oh, stop, hit the brakes, driver, hit the brakes.
He whistled. His driver and fireman applied the brakes, but Lincoln was still going too fast. Lincoln shut his eyes tight. He felt like he was going to keep rolling until he crashed. But then, suddenly and slowly, his wheels felt like they were slowing down. At last, he came to a stop right in front of the buffers.
Finally stopped at last. I thought I was going to drown in the sea.
His relief didn't last long. Soon the stones were unloaded and Lincoln reversed out of the harbor and back to the quarry. The next day, Lincoln was shunting some empty trucks under the hopper, but it wasn't long before the work was over and Lincoln was very tired. Soon, he closed his eyes and went off to sleep. Early one morning, the foreman came walking up.
There's been a construction going on from the mines. The maintenance engine will come and take a look, so I suspect that you will work with them until the work is finished.
The foreman said.
Yes, sir.
Added Lincoln.
All right then. Well, sounds like you got work to do.
Addressing at Lincoln. And with that, he turned and walked away. Lincoln spent the rest of the day working hard. Soon he had the trucks all lined up and ready to go. That evening, a maintenance train arrived.
Hello.
Lincoln said.
Hello there. You must be the quarry engine, Lincoln, correct?
That's right. I am Lincoln. And what's your name?
Well, I don't have a name, but my workers used to call me the maintenance engine. That's why.
Oh, I see. It's a pleasure to meet you anyways.
Puffed Lincoln.
All right, Lincoln. The foreman said we're supposed to check in each mines one by one, but please be careful.
Offered the maintenance engine. With that, the maintenance engine puffed to the mines while Lincoln went to collect his trucks. Lincoln and the maintenance engine worked hard. The workers were picking, and they brought lanterns so they could see what they were doing. As they continued to mine, the two engines became bored. They wanted to get back to work, until they heard a strange noise.
Now, what on earth is that? No clue. I think it's coming from the other side of the mine.
Maybe we should check. It could be dangerous.
He said as one of the miners went to check, while the rest of them stayed. At that moment, Lincoln and a few workers never returned. They decided to go check and see if they were all right. But when they arrived at the area, they were nowhere to be seen. They only found a lantern on the tracks.
I think you need to see for yourself from beneath the floor,
said one of the miners. He went to investigate. When he came back shortly after, he sighed.
I think you need to see for yourself from beneath the floor,
as the maintenance engine rolled closer and came to a complete stop. Then he shrieked in horror. What was on the ground made them sick. There was Lincoln and several miners, beyond repair and dead.
Oh my God! We must phone for help!
He cried. They raced back from the quarry and went to find the nearest signal box. They soon arrived with the signalman on board. They told him about the engine and the miners that were below the ground and dead. They had just arrived at the mines when suddenly
Oh my god.
So, this means
that they are all dead.
Yeah, I think we'll have to close the mines, otherwise someone might go in there and not realize the danger.
For a long time, no one entered the mines because of the incident that happened last night. However, if you lay too closely, you might hear the sound of whistles in each mine. No one would say for certain, but they believe that that whistle belongs to Lincoln, the quarry engine.
When I was in trouble, I was grounded last week. But from the beginning of Halloween, the story I wrote for you guys when I tell you this.
It was evening on the island of Sodor. The sun was just beginning to set. The engines were finishing their works and returning to their sheds. A thick fog began to roll in. Percy had finished delivering the mail train, and he was heading down the outstretch. He was tired, and he needed a long rest. It was a short cut to get home, but even the fog Percy knew where he was even in dark.
We should be fine now, but I think we're nearly there,
said Percy, exhausted. As he continued further, a whistle sound. He listened closely and carefully before catching the sight. Then Percy could make out the engine heading towards the same line.
Hello? Is someone there?
No reply. Just closer there to the end, it disappeared in the fog. Percy lost the mysterious engine. Percy soon arrived at the sheds. He got exhausted about the long journey, but he was very, very uneasy. The engines could hardly tell their friend was not in a good or in his way.
Percy!
Called Edward.
Is everything alright?
Percy didn't reply and looked down at his brothers.
I never said this before, but I say that poor little Percy had just seen a ghost.
The other laughed while Edward and Thomas glared.
I did see one.
Oh yeah, so what did you see then? Chuckled Henry.
Well, I see an engine. It was on the same line as me.
Silence came, and Gordon soon regretted teasing Percy. Edward broke the silence.
Percy, you must have seen Sally,
puffed Edward.
Are you serious, Edward? There's no way I am not in your mood for your teasing tonight.
He's not teasing, Percy. I know why he knows that engine.
Chuffed Thomas. Edward had knew Percy is so long that he was beginning very unserious.
Go on, Edward. Tell us who this engine is,
said James. And so Edward began.
Well, many years ago, before the Fat Controller's Railway was the Northwestern Railway, I was brought with several different engines, although the engine that you were seeing was her. Sally worked here on the island for so long, but unfortunately she was a bit troublesome. Sally's behavior was unacceptable. She was bragging about not wanting to work anymore. Sally tried something to get out of her job. She pretended that she had trouble with her boiler and the workmen didn't believe her. She tried to pretend that she was ill, but the Fat Controller still didn't believe her either. She was furious of the Controller for not believing her excuse. But then she had a plan. A very devilish plan.
The engines were fear, and Shog was thrilled by the story.
So, what did she do?
James asked.
Well, that night, she had a train to take. She refused to move, but she had no choice of doing so. She left the shed and went to take the goods train. Sally was running smoothly, but also was very annoyed. Soon her driver and fireman went for tea, while she waited in the sidings. She looked around and saw no one. She came up with her plan. It was the right time to strike. But no sooner her driver didn't notice that she forgot to put on the brakes, she began moving on her own and sped down the line. Even the driver, fireman, and the signalman found out what the noise was. They found that their engine was missing. Soon they found the runaway engine. Sally kept on going faster and faster. She had no driver and fireman within the controls. But even worse than that, she was heading towards the cliffs where the viaduct was to be built. And that was her final straw. Then she started to laugh with an evil devil laugh that she could have laughed at her whole life. As soon as she was close to the viaduct, suddenly... If I was the last thing that she ever did, that night, she sealed her fate. The works train soon arrived in the morning and looked down to see Sally. The Fat Controller was very annoyed. They told the driver and fireman what had happened last night. They went for tea. They found out what the noise was. When they got out, they saw that she was missing the seat down the line that night. The controller asked the driver if he put the brakes on. But he said that he already did. But that's when he left. But it was possible how the engines could release itself. They picked up Sally's remains and then loaded them into trucks to send to the scrapyard. The controller said nothing and walked away. Nothing was said or heard from them ever since that day. However, they say that some nights you hear the sound of the engine crossing the viaduct. You can hear her whistle, the sound of Sally, the abhorrent engine.
The angels were horrified about Edward's telling our story. All of them, except Gordon.
Oh, please. Do you all believe Edward's ghost story? Percy, what you saw, what could have been an imaginary engine, not to mention that you didn't see that Sally, or I don't know what her name is.
Puff Gordon.
For lady's sake, Gordon, show some respect. And you're telling us that you don't believe in ghosts?
Honestly, Thomas, that story was not true. It doesn't say who that engine was. So, it'll be a pleasure for you to all stop telling ghost stories and start acting like big engines,
said Gordon, as he puffed back into his berth, not grumbling, drifted in for not believing Edward's ghost story. The next night, Gordon was returning home, which at his coaches. The fog seemed thick and Gordon's lamp can make it of a difference, but he didn't care. So he continued to press on. He crossed the viaduct bridge, and then there was trouble.
What just happened?
Gordon asked.
I don't know,
said his driver.
We should the coupling to see if it has a loose safety valve.
He had to check every single coupling of his coaches, but one from the lake coach had two loose safety valves. Soon, Gordon and the guard were ready to go find the nearest signal box. As time passed, Gordon felt uneasy than usual. That suddenly, he heard a faint whistle in the distance. He looked around, but he couldn't see anyone.
Who's there?
He called out. No one replied. The whistling continued to get louder and louder. Yet nobody was there. Suddenly, Gordon could spot an orange engine from the viaduct.
No way! It can't be! Could it be?
And there was will look to be was Sally, the orange engine. His eyes determined by the trucks more evil than the devil himself. Gordon knew who this was. Then Sally puffed towards the viaduct. Gordon squinted. He tried to whistle, but he was deeply frozen about what he just saw. As Sally puffed towards Gordon, she fell down from the viaduct when a loud blasted whistle from the area. That there was silence, literally just silence. Gordon was deeply horrified by what he saw. He closed his eyes, not waiting to know what happened, but just as he closed his eyes, he heard the footsteps stomping coming. It was his crew along with the guard came back. They looked to see Gordon. It was very shaky.
Gordon?
Called his driver, who was standing in front of him.
Are you alright?
Sally was there. Edward was right.
Gordon cried. His driver and fireman were confused.
What do you mean Sally was there?
Asked his driver.
And who Sally's name was?
Gordon stopped. He opened his eyes. He looked at the viaduct once again. Sally was gone. He felt all aside relieved that he was over.
It's nothing. Let's just go already,
replied Gordon. His crew didn't mind mentioning it soon. The coupling was chained up and Gordon set off home, much sadder than ever. He felt sorry for teasing Percy, and he felt sorry for not believing Edward's story. Although on these days and nights when engines crossed the viaduct, they might hear the whistle of Sally, the unhurried engine.